Hang on. you messed it up. All right, so before we get started on this video with Chris's truck, I just want to throw this little clip in. We get a lot of stuff in the mail from people. We appreciate each and every one of y'all that sends us stuff. But we probably got the coolest thing in the mail this week that I've got yet. We were here Saturday working a little bit, and the mail lady pulled up. She gave me a package. I didn't know what it was because I hadn't ordered anything. And I opened it up, and check this out. So, it's the S10. It's tan, red at the bottom. Lower Class Fab logo. The homies at Cadillacus Rod and Customs sent us this. Check him out. I just looked before we started filming this. He's got 959 subs right this minute. Y'all put that man about 3,000 by the end of the weekend. So, y'all go give him a like. There's his name right there. A lot of automotive content, mini truck stuff. Does some four-wheel drive stuff. Does some pinstriping stuff. He's got a really cool channel. Y'all go check him out. And I just want to tell him I appreciate this before we got started on this video. Thank you, man. It looks killer. It's got a bunch of rainbow flake in it. That's pretty slick. We're putting that in our living room. It's not going to stay in the shop where it can get destroyed. And this is going on the toolbox right now. All right, y'all, we back. Chris's S10. I don't even know what part this is. I think it's 5. Today, we're doing wiring and plumbing. I cut the last video off a little short. Didn't get everything wired. I showed you how to figure out the switch box wiring. But that's all we got done. Today, we're going to do some plumbing. And I went to Napa this morning. I got some fittings. And figured out what I needed. And I went up there and picked some up. And, man, brass is expensive. These fittings ain't no joke. I bought 5 fittings this morning. It was $56. It's rough. But I'm going to get this thing plumbed up real quick, and I will show you what I done after I get it plumbed up, because I'm not going to bore you with every single freaking fitting. But I'll show you what we ended up having to do. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready to get this thing going up and down on its own. I'm sure Chris is. So yeah, this is what I bought this morning at Napa. Those 5 fittings was $56. I just looked at the receipt. It's ridiculous. All right, so first things first, we got these leader hoses. They are 1/4-inch pipe thread, and my fittings on the air tank are 1/2 inch. So I got these 90s to go here, and I couldn't find locally a 90 that went to a 1/4 inch, so I had to get a bushing. So that's going to screw into there. And then that's going to screw into the air tank, and then the leader hose is going to screw into that. And I've got that set up twice. So I'm going to get that plumbed. I'll show you what they look like hooked up. Don't forget to take your little rubber pieces out of there, or they will not be there. Okay, so here's what I got. I got my 90 in the tank. Got my leader hoses coming in. I've got a 1/2 inch to 3/8 air line coming out. That's going to loop around and go into the valve block right there. I got a plug here. I got my pressure switch plumbed in up here. And on the very bottom is a plug. But when I get a chance to go back to town, I'm going to get a 1/4 inch hex, which is metal on both sides, to a ball valve so that I can put on there so that he can drain his air tank. The port's right on the bottom, so I want to make it where he can reach up under there and pop a ball valve and drain the water out. And close it back real easy. So I know a lot of people they like to run water traps here. I've run water traps on a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna be honest, it helps some, but it don't get all of it. So the ball valve and just reaching up under there is as good of an option as any to me. Also, with this feed port being halfway up the tank, that keeps a lot of the water out. If I had a port on the bottom of the tank and that feed line was coming off the bottom, it would be sucking all that water up. But with it being halfway up the tank, most of the water is going to drop to the bottom. So personal choice. If you want to run water traps, run them. This works just as good for me. Now I'm going to start plumbing, hooking all my air lines up, and getting this thing ready to start wiring. So I got some of the wires run and the hoses. For the compressors, I welded a stud to the frame before I painted the frame. So I shortened my black ground cables, hook them there. Then I also shortened my positive cables. If you're running a Stinger 80 amp or a Pack 80 or whatever it's called, they're all the same. They just got a different label on them. There's 2 big studs and 2 little studs on the bottom. Your compressors need to go to one of the big studs, and your power wire needs to come in and go to the other big stud. Either one doesn't matter because it's going to flow power. There's not like a power wire and a supply, you know, what you're supplying on the other side. It doesn't matter. Same with the small wires. It doesn't matter which way you hook them, it's going to work. So I've got these hooked here. They're not tied, obviously. And then I got my power wire running in. So I will show you how to wire the small side of that in a few minutes. But like I said, you got your relay under the hood or your fuse or whatever you want to run. Your power wire comes back. And it, like I say, it hooks to the small side, or to one of the big side, and then your compressor's hooked to the other side. Make sure you have a really good ground. That's why I always weld a bolt to it, so I know it's going to be grounded. All right, and then to continue plumbing, we need to run the gauge lines. I got these nifty little fittings. They come from Switch Suspension. And they work very well, and they're not super huge and bulgy. So I like those. I got all those plumbed in. I'll show you in just a sec what we're going to do with that. KK got off work. Got her out here helping me now. We're still working on wiring and plumbing. We have to get this run. This is the adapter harness to go from the VU4 to the AVS7 switch box. And that's got to go inside the cab. It's going to be a lot easier to run that than trying to get that plug through there. But what we did is down here at the bottom, we drilled us a hole. And instead of using a regular grommet, I always use wire loom split and run around it. That way we get a, you know, it's a lot easier to run the wire through without it falling out from grommet, so make you talk dirty. But that's just the way I like to do it. So I'm going to run this, and then I'm also going to run a piece of airline from the farthest valve block fitting, which would be that one, around like I'm going to run them. And I'm going to run it all the way to the pillar pod, and then I'm going to pull it back out, and I'm going to cut 4 more just like it. Right? And then we're going to run them all together, and voila. We do all that in one sweep. So we're going to get that done. Be back with you in just a minute. So, hey, bye. All right, so we're getting a little closer, getting some wiring done. I promise y'all I'd show y'all how to wire these relays and the switch box. So there's, like I said earlier, there's 2 terminals on the bottom side of this relay that are your trigger wires. One's just grounded, just comes off of there and goes straight to the ground. The other is our 12-volt in. So that's going to go from there to the pressure switch, which this will be run up under the air tank. So it's going to go to one side of the pressure switch. I'm going to leave the other side of the pressure switch. I'm going to go inside to a rocker switch on the dash so that you can turn the compressors on and off. The other side of the rocker switch is going to go to a key 12-volt source on the inside. That way you can turn it off with the switch there, and you got a pressure switch that's going to turn it off. Also, this pressure switch is a 175 off, 140 on. Like I said, the reason I do that, the 444s, they have a lot of trouble building air past 175 PSI, so we just take a little strain off of them, put a lower pressure switch. 175 is about enough to hop this truck off the ground. So it doesn't really need to be any higher than that for any reason except a little bit more air. From experience. Yes. If you remember Brandon's truck from a couple years ago, 200 pounds, hopped the back tires of his truck off the ground about 6 inches. Yeah. So, video. Yeah. So that's very simple. You got, like I said, your 12-volt there, and then your compressors. And we're going to take this now, and we're going to jump it, turn the compressors on, and that's going to let us get in there and figure out which one of these 5 air lines is the tank one. It'll be the one, obviously, with air coming out of it. Should be pretty simple to find. And we're going to hook it to the gauge. And I showed you the gauges a while ago, the fittings, but I did not show you the gauges installed in the pillar pod. So it's a really nice setup. We got tank gauge up top, front, and rear. And as you can see, you can actually get to these fittings. When you have to double up fittings and put bushings and all that stuff, they get all into the plastic, but with these fittings here, they fit really good. So we're going to get these plumbed up, and I'll show you how to wire it to figure out what wires go where on the switch box. It'll be real simple. And once we get that started, I'll show you in just a second. Apparently, as we just learned, you can't build air that way if you don't put all the freaking plugs in the tank. There's another hole down here that I didn't know was there. So we got to put that in real quick. Yeah, we were over there like, why is there no air coming out of the tank?
Because it's all coming out of the tank.
Yeah, it's all coming out of that port. Take 2. Nothing? Oh, you already found it? Next, we need to figure out this wiring harness for the switch box to the VU4. This is my key 12 volt for the switch box. I'm gonna use it to figure out what we got. Air pressure buildup. It's got, I don't know what gauge it's got 175 pounds in it right now. 4 of these are gonna lift the truck. If we click it and it doesn't make a noise, that's a dump, so we're not gonna mess with that anymore. So we just gonna touch it to it. So that picture truck, which corner is that? Front right. Alright. So we know that one, the orange one, is front right. Now we're gonna go back and look at our card that we made in the last video. Front right up is dark blue on the switch box. So that will be this one. We're gonna plug it in. Alright. Next, we're gonna take our, where the wire go? Here it is. We're gonna just do that same. Which bag is that on the back?
Back drivers.
Back left, ain't it?
Back left.
Alright, so green is gonna be left rear up. Left rear up would be red on the switch box. Kind of hard to get up there. Alright, so we're going to keep doing that until we find the other 2, and we'll be back in just a second. Alright, so we got the 4 lifts hooked up. We hooked our air hoses up. We checked each one, figured out which line had air coming out of it. I hooked the left sides to the bottom fitting, right sides to the top. That way they match on the gauge. So you know the orange ones or the black ones will be the left side, and the opposite color will be the other side. So now we're going to check and see, figure out which one is each dump by letting air pressure out of each one. So I'm going to add a little bit more air to the back. Alright. See which one that is, man. Left, man.
Yeah, I see.
Alright, so that's rear, left, down, and that was pink. I'm assuming that's pink. It's kind of orange now. Alright, so power wire, where should go? There. Is that the front or the rear? I think it's the front. No, that's left. That's back right. So brown is the back right. What color is that? Rear right down is white. Alright, so which front one here is which? That's right. Front down. Right front down is green. Alright, we only got one left. Obviously not pink. That's left front down, which is purple. That one's bent, so that's not going to do it now. Alright, we're going to get this hooked up, and we'll be back in just a second. Alright, so we got all this figured out, and if you want to wire your switch box up backwards, and you got this set up, I'll save you the hassle. Yellow goes to purple, and purple goes to yellow. How ironic. Red goes to green, orange goes to blue, green goes to red, white goes to brown, brown goes to white. and blue goes to orange. Voila.
What that is?
And then your pink goes to your key 12 volt. So now we got front up, rear up, rear down. You can do each individual. And that's why we like this setup, because it works. It just works. So. Alright, also there's a wire right here. Let me see that. So I've got it tapped into here. This is for the compressors. This is for the switch box. They just loop around. This is the compressor switch, so we can turn them off and on with that. And yeah, that's it. It runs back there to the other side of the relay. Back on Chris's truck. Next thing we're gonna do, I got it out of the shop on the lift so I can finish it up, and I've got to tighten all the bolts on the rear, and I've also got to change those dog bones. So I'm gonna tighten all these bolts, everything except the dog bones, and I just remembered I got to paint those. So I'm gonna go ahead and paint them first, and then I'll tighten everything. And once I get everything tightened, maybe the paint will be dry, and I can come back and put those in. So we're going to change that shorter dog bone to get that arm up off the ground. They're trying to what's it called? Heckle me over there. Ain't never going to win that battle. Alright, so we've got another issue with this truck. To make it lay out flat, you have to address this transmission crossmember. Turn this light on here, we all can see. You've got this little triangle plate here that hangs below the frame. And also, I went ahead and marked this so I can show you. This part of the cross member hangs below the frame. If you put a level up here, that's what I did to get the line. Goes all the way over to the edge. We're going to address that because we want this thing to lay out completely, which is not going to lay out until Chris gets it back because the exhaust is hanging below the frame, but he owns the muffler shop, so that won't be an issue for long. So first thing, I'm going to show you how we done this. I learned about this on the S10 forum a decade and a half ago. I haven't done one in a while, but I got to get these 3 bolts out here. There's I believe that's a 10, and these are 2 13s. And once I get those out, I'll show you what we do next. I had to go get some bolts today, and I'll show you what I got and what size you need, length, all that good stuff, and how to modify this to get rid of this triangle. And then also the way we're going to modify it, you're not going to have any bolts hanging down to drag off like Dan. Technically, Dan wasn't driving his truck. Chandler was when it broke. So it's Chandler's fault. It really is Chandler's fault.
Y'all blame Chandler for everything.
It's usually his fault. Alright, you can cut it till we get this so what out. We got here is a socket head bolt. Socket head, Allen head. I don't know what the technical exact term is for that. But it's that kind of bolt. With a smooth head, Allen head in the end. That is a 3/8 by 1.5 inches. With a flat washer and a lock nut. And we're going to drill this frame out to make this recess up into it so that there's nothing hanging down below the frame to drag off. Hang on, I'm going to go over here and do one of these holes and make sure I remember how to do it, and then I'll come back and show you. So the goal of what we're trying to accomplish here with this crossmember is to drill these 2 holes out. These 2 where the factory bolts went. On this one, I've already done it. I want to make sure I remembered how to do it. I have a unibit here, just old Harbor Freight unibit, that the biggest size is a 5/8. This hole needs to be a 9/16 for this bolt to go into it. All right, so I just kind of stopped before I got to the last layer there, and it's now a 9/16 hole, maybe 5/8 at the bottom, but that's fine. So this is drilled out, but the top is still factory, the factory size hole. It's not drilled out at all. So you're gonna grab a 5/16 Allen head. We're going to fight with this and get it to go up through. And as you can see right there, the bolt comes out the top. You put your nut on it, your washer, and voila. You now have a flush cross member that you cannot drag the heads off of. And it's still plenty strong, and it's going to be just fine. I've done a bunch of them like this over the years. And I'm going to drill this other one out and get both these bolts in. And, well, I'm going to get them mocked up, and then I got to pull it off and flat plate this thing. So I'll show you that in just a second. So I got my cross member cut down. I just took the hump out of it. Here's the piece I cut out. I showed you, I just made a mark with a straight edge while it was on the truck. Transferred it over to the other side. It looks like it may be a little, no, it ain't high. It's a little low there. It's making that look high. Got me a piece of cardboard, about to make me a template. Cut me out some metal. And I don't need to show you how to make a template. You know how to make one. So we're gonna get this marked up, find me a piece of metal, cut it out, and I'll come back with you when I get ready to weld it. All right, let's find a piece of metal to cut this thing out. So here's what we got. We got a piece of 3/16 cut. Fits really good. Like I said, it was a little low right here. So I'm gonna pie cut this back a little bit and beat this down. That way we got a little bit smoother transition. This side's good, we're just gonna weld it, but I'm gonna go in, like I say, and just pie cut this to about right here and just tap it down. Only on this side over here lines up pretty good. So back side's good. And I also brought it over onto the transmission mount just a little bit. I didn't want to get too crazy because I didn't want to cause any issues trying to get to this bolt, but I just want to give it a little bit of its structure back. I only had to cut maybe, I don't know, 3/8 to 1/2 inch off of that. So it's got to be better than it was because transmission mount come out in 2 pieces. So we're gonna pick up a new one of those tomorrow. But I'm gonna get this welded in, get it painted, and then first thing tomorrow when I get back, I can throw it in with the new mount. And let me get that pie cut and welded in, and I will show you. We got one sectioned transmission cross member, and that's gonna allow us to lay this truck flat on the dirt without it dragging the ground. As you can see, that side is flush with the bottom of the frame. We got a little uphill travel there, so it's gonna clear just fine. And that's ready to be spray painted. And like I said, I gotta get a transmission mount tomorrow because that one come out in 2 pieces. And we'll get ready to put that back in. So I knocked it down a little bit with a flap disc, but I didn't take too much off. All right, now that that's done, I painted the dog bones a couple hours ago. I'm gonna go see if they're dry. And if they are, we're gonna get ready to swap these out. Let's see. They're still a little sticky. That might be a job for tomorrow. All right, so talked about these dog bones already. These are the ones that was sent with the kit. The longer the dog bone, it's set up for a bigger wheel. With this truck having a 17 on it, it doesn't need all this. And what's the big issue is, with this tire being so short, whenever the truck is laid out, this bar is almost on the ground. What that shorter bar is going to allow it to do is get full lift out of the bag because it's completely collapsing the bag. And it's also going to tuck this bar up closer to the suspension and keep it from dragging the ground. So I'm going to go over here and try to get all these bushings out. We greased them up and all that stuff when we put them in. Maybe they haven't been rode on, so maybe they'll come out pretty easy. And I got to swap these grease fittings over. So I'm going to fight with that for a few minutes and get those swapped out. Be back. Actually, that's probably all I'm doing tonight. And I'll be back tomorrow to get more done. All right, y'all, it's the next day. Got this thing painted last night. It's all dry. I didn't paint the whole cross member, just painted what we welded. And I picked up a new transmission mount today. We're about to throw that on. Notice that the hole is offset. Make sure you put that back the same way or it's not going to bolt up right. I'm going to get this thrown in, get this thrown back in, and we'll move on to the next step. All right, here we go. We got it in. We're flush with the frame all the way across. Got it bolted back up, got our new mount in, and we got our recessed bolts up in there. I don't know if you can see those or not. Nope. But anyway, that's not going to be holding the truck up anymore. Next thing down is the exhaust, and this cross member is just a hair below the frame. It's actually almost flush with the frame, so we're probably just going to leave it alone. He bought a new cross member, but it's for the 98 to 2003 trucks, so there's really not a need to change this one. There he is. Technically, it's that much lower than the frame, so about a finger thickness. We can cut it off, we can change it, we can leave it alone, let him drag it. He's coming over tonight, so we'll make a decision. All right, so next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and get this evap canister in. I already got it bolted to the bracket, and I showed you kind of what we was gonna do with this. This is the vent. We're just gonna leave it the way it is and tie it over there. I've got this hose. It's gonna go right there to that hookup, and then the one that's still got the metal line on it is gonna go to the one on the pump. I just went and got 8 foot of 5/16 PCV hose, like $1 and something a foot. Figured I'd just replace it. Instead of trying to make this hard line here work and look kind of funny, we're just gonna run a whole new line, and I'm gonna get these run and on to the next step. All right, so we got all our evap hoses run. They're zip tied to the cross member up where the drive shaft can't get them. And next, Chris has got a couple wheel studs on this wheel that's stripped out. Gonna get those changed out for him real quick. Just picked a couple of those up. For whatever reason, I thought there was only 2, but there's one on the other side too, but I only got 2 wheel studs, so it's gonna get 2 tonight. Which Chris said he could handle the other one. He does exhaust and brake jobs and all that stuff for a living, so he knows how to do it. But I'm gonna knock these out, go ahead and get them changed for him, and then we have adapters that bolt on, and then the wheels. So we're gonna get all those on so we can sit this thing back on the ground and see what it looks like completely laid out now. Also, I have to put this on. I gotta go find the bolts for it. I don't remember exactly what happened to those, but as you can clearly see, that bolt's there. So I'm gonna get that bolted up. Show you all this really nifty little tool for putting wheel studs in. You get the wheel stud in there, and then I bought this online somewhere. I don't remember where I got it from or what it was called, but for years I always just put the lug nut on there and pulled it through, and it always seems to mess up the end of the lug nut. This has got a bearing built in that allows you to do that with a lug nut, but it doesn't ruin the lug nut. So you get your stud in there, get your lug nut started, grab your impact, and I may have to put the phone down to do this, but we're gonna try it. Looks like it's gonna pull it up in there. And she's in there. You back it off, and it didn't ruin the lug nut, but I did drop it, and voila, new wheel studs. That thing, I think it was about 40 bucks, but it was worth it because I've used it a whole bunch, and it does the job. Fat guy in a little coat. Dun-dun-dun. Me and the kiddos out here putting in work today. We got the bed moved from over there to here. We got a moving blanket down, blowed all the dirt out, and that was of course before we took the car cover out and all the leaves fell on the ground. It's a light bulb.
Albert Einstein. I mean, no, who invented the light bulb? I don't know.
Aren't you the one in school that should know this?
Yeah, we don't learn special.
Was it Thomas Edison or Nikola Tesla?
Who's that? Sounds like Elon Musk kid or something. I don't know.
Maybe his grandfather.
I think it's...
All right, so we got to get this bed cut. I got to cut the center out, obviously, and then I got to go in and cut these cross members out where they're going to hit the compressors and the gas tank. So I'm going to get all that measured out real quick, get my cutoff wheel out, start whacking, and you're going to go blow all the leaves out of Chris's $300 car cover, huh?
That doesn't look like it's $300.
Not anymore. That hurricane done damage on it. All right, I'm going to get to cutting. And, yeah, let's go. Do your best Cletus impression. Let's go.
Oh, no, I'm good. How about you do that?
All right, y'all. It's the next day. Made some progress. Got the bed on the truck. Got it all cut out. Got the cross members notched under the bottom. When I pull the bed back off, I'll show you exactly what we notched. But I screwed up. And I've told y'all this on the channel before. We're not one of those channels that shows you only the good stuff and we don't show you when we mess up. Messed up. I messed up bad. This truck had fresh paint on it, and I managed to cut through the bedside. Yeah. And cut the paint. Cut through the driver's side, or passenger side, I'm sorry. Driver's side, nicked it, and it cracked the paint. So that was trying to cut the freaking fender wells out under the thing. I have never, I cannot tell you how many of these beds I have cut in my life. A bunch. And I have never cut through a bedside. And I cut through both of them on this one. Well, I cut through one and the other one kind of messed the paint up. And I called Chris and told him. He took it better than I did. I'm pretty beat up about it myself. But he knows we're going to get it fixed. And he was already talking about having this truck wet sanded and re-cleared. So we'll work out whatever we got to work out to get it fixed. And yeah, I'm one of those. I want to show you when we screw up. And I screwed up bad. If this was an old turd truck that was primered and I actually didn't even know I had done this side until we already had the bed on the truck, and then we saw it. So it happens. It sucks, but we'll get it fixed. He also said he had a roll pan for the back, so it might be a good time to get that from him and weld that in for him, and that way we can just get the whole bed resprayed at one time. And I am not happy with myself. Next project this morning, I pulled this back out. We've got to mount it, and I always mount these with a sheet metal screw. They send a little plastic clip. You drill a hole and you push it in, but from my experience, these gauges are so heavy that the first time you hit a bump, it pulls the clip out and that thing falls in your lap. And I ain't never had good luck with it. The only thing I've ever had that held it was a small sheet metal screw. So I don't know if you can see that right there. I marked it with my pocket knife where I needed it to be. I'm gonna go ahead and get a screw, pre-drill me a hole in that, and get this thing screwed in. And once I got it where I like it and I screw it in, now I'm gonna pull it back out and I'll reconnect all the air lines. So show you all that in a minute. Also, this is all you need. You need a really short self-tapper. Because if you use a longer one, next thing you know, there's a hole in your roof and you're like, what happened? So get the short one. Don't try to do it with a long one because you're going to pop a sheet metal screw through the outside skin. And that's all it takes. If your headliner is in the truck, you may have to get a little bit longer screw than what I used. But for where we at right here, it works. Now I've got to fish all the air lines up through the dash to come in to the back side of this and get those all hooked back up. I didn't label them because I'm a dummy, but I figured it wouldn't be too hard to figure out what went where. So we're gonna get that done. On to the next step. I got all the gauge lines fished up and run, and I tried to trim them evenly so I keep me a nice little loop when I push it back down. And I was ready to put it in and remembered I gotta wire the lights up. So 2 of these lights come with LED bulbs. One of them comes with a regular bulb. I don't have another LED bulb here, so when I go to town, I will grab a third one, but I'm gonna go ahead and get it wired up. And also, I wired these in parallel. Series would be, you got a hot coming in here, ground going out, hot, ground, hot, ground. But the problem with that is, if this bulb blows, the other 2 don't work. So they all go out at one time. With wiring them up in parallel, all the hots are connected together and all the grounds are connected together, and that way if this bulb blows, the other 2 will still work. So that's my preferred method. You can wire however you want, but this is mine. So this is the top bulb, middle bulb, bottom bulb, and I've got my pink hot wire, my purple ground wire. You know, normally would use red and black, but the only black wire that I had right now was some leftover wire, and it was a little too big for these butt connectors. So I'm gonna heat shrink these. Put some heat on those, melt them down, and then I've got to run the hot and the ground inside somewhere and find somewhere to hook them up. So I'm probably going to hook the hot to the headlight switch so that when the headlights come on, the lights come on the pillar pod. Ground, I don't know what we're going to do about that. I don't know, we may ground it right there. Nah, I'm not going to do that because this truck's going to have a windshield in it soon, and then you won't ever be able to get it loose. So I'll probably run it down over here somewhere and find a pre-existing ground if I can. If not, I'll make one. All right, so I got these lights wired up where they come on. You can't tell because it's daylight, but You can see that one's on. So I pulled this headlight switch out, and there was already a wire tapped in here. I guess something previously was wired up, had some gauges in it. So I just used it. It comes on with the marker light. Hooked my 12 volt up there, and my ground. I took the bolt out of the parking brake at the bottom. Just grounded it there. It's super simple, foolproof, and yeah, gauges are done. They're in. They've got the screw holding them in. They ain't going nowhere. They're super tight. You can see here, this is where they would fit up against the windshield. There's no wires sticking out, nothing crazy like that. And I got them tucked down in there nice and neat. So when he gets ready to put speakers back in here, he's not gonna have to move the wires that I put in. This is just the speaker wire for the speakers, and that's it. So now I'm gonna clean up this mess, get everything zip tied and laid across the floor, so that when he gets ready to put carpet in, all he's gotta do is lay it in. He ain't gotta move no wires, do none of that crazy stuff. All right, y'all, another day, same truck. I got the bed mocked up, everything's fitting like it's supposed to. Got my notch cover. Cut this out yesterday, bent it up. I got to trim a little bit. It's about, I don't know, less than 1/8 of an inch too wide. So I'm just going to grind the edge a little bit and get it fitting really good. And then I got to pull the bed back off. I'm going to cut the side of these wheel tubs out. You can see I've already marked them. So when I pull it out, because they're really tight trying to get the bed on. And I'm just going to get rid of that sheet metal so that when I sit it down on there, it goes on a little easier. And the notch cover is going to come from here up down to here. You know, it's going to cover the hole up. And you won't be able to see where I cut the side of the wheel tub out because it'll be covered up by this. Got to do a little sanding on it and get this rust off. Spray paint it before or well, once I get it welded in, the bed will still be off. I'll spray paint the bottom, spray paint the top. And once we get this bed repaired where I screwed up, we'll get a bed liner put in it. Chris will probably handle all that, but you know, we can spray a Raptor liner in it if we need to, if he wants that, or if he wants to take it and get a line X or whatever put in it. I don't know, but we'll figure it out. But my job for this morning is to get this notch cover in. So I'm gonna work on that. I'll show you in a few minutes. All right, so I didn't film the install process, but I got the notch cover in. I got it all seam sealed. It's gonna get spray painted for now. That way, whenever it won't rust, but that way whenever he gets ready to spray a bed liner in it, all I gotta do is scuff it and paint it. Went and bought a can of spray paint, sitting right on the toolbox, and I'm gonna spray paint it today. But before I put the bed back on, I had a leak that I needed to fix. It was this fitting here where it was screwed into the bag. I took it out, re-thread taped it, put it back in, sprayed it with soapy water. It's good now. It's been sitting here for 2 hours, aired up, and everything seems to be good. So also, I told y'all that I was going to put a drain on the bottom of his air tank. This is the only freaking fitting that I could find in town that wasn't just threads. So where I could actually put a wrench on it if I needed to, a pair of pliers or something to get it in and out. So I'm going to pull this plug I put in the bottom of the tank out and put this in. I got to drain the air out of the tank first, and then once we get this in, we'll crank it back up and let it build air. I want to time these new 444s because I don't think they were fairly represented, because when I done that compressor test, I done it with this truck, and these seem to be a lot faster. So I'm going to time them, even though it's only to 175 psi. I want to see how long it takes to go from nothing to cutting the pressure switch off. So I know the test was to 200 on the before, and they really start falling off at 175. So that's got a lot to do with why they took so long. But I'm gonna let it build up, and I'll let you know how long it actually took. My 444s are definitely junk compared to these. From 0 to 175 on those just took 3 minutes and 18 seconds, which is pretty damn fast. So I need to go back and compare that to the video and see what the 485s did. So the new ones, like a new set, is pretty good. Apparently those are wore out, and I didn't even know it. So sorry, it happens. All right, I'm about to tighten all these jam nuts on this 6-link, and I just spray painted the inside of the bed. I got to get it picked up so I can paint the bottom and get it ready to go back on. Hey, Junior.
That's Junior, not me. That's Steve. Okay.
All right, y'all. So we showed you everything on this truck, putting the airbags on it. There's the only thing left really to do before it goes back to Chris. Put the bed bolts in it. I have 2 of those out of 8. He's got the rest of those at his house, but the bed has to come back off because now it has to go to the paint shop. Thanks to me. Hey, Jimbo. But if you have any questions, anything we didn't cover, we cover wiring relay, the valve block, switch box, all that stuff, how we do it. This is a 215/40 17 tire. We showed you that you can lay this truck out on the frame with this size tire, keep the fender wells under the hood and the wheel tubs in the bed. So it works out. You can ride real low with it because you got a short tire. You can drive it anywhere and everywhere. This is basically the exact same setup, tire and wheel size as Jeff's truck. And we learned from that truck what works and what don't work. So we showed you the transmission cross member, fixed it so it don't drag, it don't hold the truck up. We did not change the carrier bearing cross member because it's pretty much flush with the frame, so we didn't want to mess with that. We got a notch cover in the bed, we got it spray painted, seam sealed, it's ready for bed liner. The gauges are in, everything, it's ready to go. So it's ready to go back to Chris now. He's going to finish putting them back together. He's going to put his interior in. Originally, he was kind of thinking about body dropping his truck, but he's already had all the interior done in tweed, and he don't want to lose his air conditioner. So he opted to just run with this for a while. This tire and wheel setup, we did have to run a 1.5-inch wheel spacer front and rear to make the wheels fit right. Without the spacers, they were hitting the tie rod ends with the drop spindles. So we had to run the spacer, and then in the rear, we just run the spacer so the wheels are even. We could have run them without them, but it looks better with the wheel spacers on. So I don't think I covered that at all in the video. I think that's it. So hope y'all enjoyed this build series. I'm sure once he gets it back together with the interior and starts driving it and goes to some car shows with us, you'll see it completed. I know he's trying to figure out the front bumper situation. He's got I think he said an Envoy front bumper, and he's trying to get the structure to go behind it. He told me a couple days ago he got a bumper, but he wasn't sure if it was going to work. So, like I say, once we get it all together, I'm sure you'll see it. So, appreciate y'all checking it out. Tell them bye.
Oh no, that's hay.
And if you want a hoodie, saw it in the last little short video, need to pre-order it, lowerclassfab.com. Get on there, pre-order it between now and November 17th. And go ahead and get that pre-ordered so that we can get them on the way to you. Because once pre-order's over on the 17th, they won't be available anymore. So, what else? More merch, lowerclassfab.com. Buy some of these t-shirts so we ain't got to look at them.
Yeah, how do you say buy in Spanish?
Buy?
Yeah.
How do you say buy in Spanish, KK?
I have no idea.
Um.
We should Rosetta Stone ourselves. That one.
Reverse ula. Yeah.
Huh? Reverse what?
Ula is hay. Hula.
Is it?
You have me tripping. Hold on.
I don't know.
Well,
Alright, thank y'all for watching. We're going to get out of here.